What did to motivate you to start studying WikiLeaks?
Okay. I knew about WikiLeaks early on. I remember in, I think it was 2008, when they were able to tweet something that the Guardian had been told they couldn't talk about, right? So the British system, the defense ministry can say, you can't report this, and you can't report that you can't report this. WikiLeaks and the Parliament managed to get that out, and so that was when I first noticed it. I thought, oh, that's interesting. But it was watching the Afghan war leaks come out in the summer of 2010, and I read everything, and that's what got me interested. I was already interested in sort of new and old media, but that's what got me interested in WikiLeaks.
What does it mean, journalism media?
Interloper media. So that's the idea that some organizations we have news organizations and we know them, and so if there was a new newspaper, we'd say, all right, it's a newspaper. But this interlopers come from outside that traditional space, but still adopt the same values. So a blog that says it does journalism is different than a new newspaper that says it does journalism. So that's the argument there.
Okay. Do you think WikiLeaks is a type of journalism?
Yes. When it's doing journalism. And when it's doing activism, it's an activist. So I think when it's sharing information in a public interest as news for audiences, that's journalism. When it's trying to get a political movement going or push certain legislation, well, that's activism. They're two different things from the same place.
What does it mean for you being a journalist?
What is it to be a journalist? To adopt a journalistic identity, so seeing yourself as serving a public interest, providing information to that public in their interest. It's also about doing that intentionally. So that is what you set out to do when you communicate. And it is to recognize that has a place in society, and however you understand it, that you're working in that social.
What is the objective of WikiLeaks in general? For example, the society.
Greater transparency leads to greater governance because the more we know about our elected governments, the better we know about who we want to elect and whether we want to keep electing them and things like that. So I think its view is a more open world, is a better understood world, and a better world. It's fairly close to their statement.
Do you think that journalism is activist or conservative?
I think WikiLeaks journalism is more activist. Most journalism is more conservative, and that's where the tension is, right? So journalism follows routines that work, it does things because it works, it has worked. WikiLeaks is willing to say, I'm doing something different, and we'll see where it goes.
We have an idea.
Yep.
What do you think about it?
Our idealized view of journalism. I think it has value. It's something we should always keep in mind, but we need to be able to say, okay, we're not always perfect at it. It's an ideal, something to aspire towards. There are a lot of other things that go on in journalism, entertainment, covering Kim Kardashian, all of that stuff is part of this whole journalistic process because it needs to make money and it needs to entertain and people need to be informed. It's a lot of things at once. So it's okay to be idealistic, but recognize that journalism is lots of things.
Do you think that journalism can do a better society?
Publicity, you mean making things public? Most of the time, if the thing you make public shows that someone in a position of power, or people or groups in a position of power, are doing things that aren't fair or right or legal or ethical, or otherwise just uncomfortable, that's good. That's a good publicness in my mind. But if I were to hack your bank account, and I said this to another group, so, all right, if I hacked your Facebook account and I shared all of your messages between friends, you're not in power. So all I'm doing is exposing things to the world that make a vulnerable person, because you're not in a position of power, more vulnerable. So that's not good publishing. So you need to have a balance there.
To finish, which recommendation for us to be a better journalist?
Okay. I would say similar to my earlier response. It's okay to be idealistic. Absolutely okay. But see how you can do that in the best way possible. And also be willing to say not everything's perfect. Not everything's cookie cutter. Not all types of journalism look the same way, and they can still be beneficial. Starting small and going bigger can be really, having your own blog and just letting it take shape, getting used to writing, or getting used to doing video, or getting used to doing any of these things, so that you can build on them in whatever fashion the changing world goes. That would be my advice.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank
Nice to
you.
meet you.
Nice to meet you. Yeah, nice to meet you. Well.
Thanks.